Here we go. So I have a few things I want to dive into before I get into these 5 tips that I want to share with you today, because like all of us, we have a story, and it's important that you know the backstory before we dive into all of these tips. So you just press up? Okay, did I go forward or back? There we go. Okay, perfect. So like Ashley said, we all wear all of these titles. So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a businesswoman. I recently was just crowned Mrs. International 2022, which you guys blew my own mind because I had never competed in my life before, and for the first time decided to go after something, and if I go in after something, I go in 100%, and here we are today. Now I have that crown and that title that I will wear proudly for the next 7 months. TV host, best-selling author, all of these titles. But, wherever we're at in our lives, it's important to know that the outside is just one way to look at things, right? Like all the different titles and hats that we wear, it's so important to know that there's depths and layers to that. And on the outside, everyone shows the highlight reel on social media. Everything's beautiful and pretty and sparkly and shiny. And if you peel back those layers, that's where you get to the story. And I want to share that story with you. So let me just go to this next slide for a minute. Okay. So for me, growing up, I just want to take you back here for a moment. I didn't grow up with these systems. I didn't grow up with any of the stuff that you see today. So when you see, Sandi, and she's got this systems, and she's got this strategy, and she's got all the planning and the calendars, right? It didn't start there. As a matter of fact, it was the complete opposite. I grew up in a home that was very loving, but very chaotic, very overwhelmed, very... I'll put it this way. I was the last child picked up from ballet and dance and gymnastics. My mom she was a working mom. My dad traveled a lot, entrepreneur, always on the road. So she was also wearing all the hats, the mom, the wife, trying to get dinner on the table. And for her, she didn't have things like the systems, the calendars that she was operating with. So imagine growing up and all you see and all you know is chaos. And your world is just filled with lots of emotion, lots of overwhelm, and burnout. And that's what you see day to day to day. And imagine, I go back for me, and I go back to that 10-year-old, that 12-year-old, and think about those emotions that you go through, right? And even though I wasn't the one running the house at the time, to see that, to experience that, I knew from 10 years old, this is not the way that I want to show up when I get here. So I was always an entrepreneur. From very little, I saw my dad, and I saw him running his own businesses. And so at 10 years old, actually it was 11 or 12, because that's when my mom had my youngest brother. And when my friends were out going to parties or dances or the mall, I was the neighborhood babysitter. So I would be like, okay, I'm going to go babysit for the Smiths or the Kaplans or the whoever it was that weekend. And I remember I was babysitting this one family who had 3 boys. I'm also the oldest of 3. And interestingly enough, in her home, she had calendars. And she had schedules. And she had systems. By the way, this was my mom's best friend. So I saw 2 different worlds. I saw a very chaotic, overwhelmed way of operating. And then I saw a very scheduled, very smooth. Now, by the way, these people were going out on date night, so they were clearly having time together. And I was going there multiple times a month, so they had their, quality time together. But it was the first time in my life that I saw how to run things differently. It was the first time that my eyes were open to, oh my gosh, there's not a world of stress and overwhelm to operate from. It can be easy and it can flow and things get to work together. So that was my first real aha moment. And then fast forward a few years later, and I got into the world of event planning. And you can imagine when you're planning someone's wedding day, you have to be on top of all the details, all of the changing things that come into play. And for me, being and understanding the role of how systems and operations and scheduling and details became so important, because now I understood why they made a huge difference. I finally understood that when you operate from this place of having these certain things together, the schedules, the planning, the calendars, life doesn't have to be chaotic and overwhelming. You get to be in control. So I'm a mom of 2 boys. I have a 2 and a 5-year-old. I actually had to run out because he was calling me from school. And nothing, all good news. Teacher wanted to tell me some good news. And for me, even before I became a mom, because I saw what it was like not to have those systems in place, but I saw that there was an opportunity to do things differently, I made a decision that I wasn't going to run and operate from a place of overwhelm. I knew now that there was another way of doing things. So when I had my first son, Jake, who's 5, who's been on stages before, he'll talk your ear off if you've ever met him. For me, it was important to know that I could run a business, be a wife that could show up and be there for my husband, but also be able to have my own purpose and be able to have my own mission of what I was doing, but step away from the overwhelm. How many of us stay in boxes that were built for years and years and years, and we never break the cycle, right? I told myself that wasn't going to be the case. I told myself that no longer was I going to operate from a place of overwhelm and burnout from everything that I saw. So what did I do? 2 things. Number 1, every single day I had to learn strategy. I had to learn how to figure out, how do I run the business and be the mom that gets to be the PTO, right? Like be there for all of the school plays and the rehearsals and Valentine's Day and Halloweens, but also be able to run a business, be there for my husband, do the things that I care about, because all of that matters, right? We're not just these one-dimensional creatures that just are always in work mode all the time. We're always just, wiping up the poopy diapers or whatever it is that we got to do, right? So today I want to share with you, we're going to go through some slides, and I want to share with you these 5 tips because it starts somewhere. It starts with having the right systems and strategies in place. And when we can do that, we can tap into that next level. When we do that, we get to operate from a place of freedom. How many of you want freedom in your life? Yes, all of us, right? We all want freedom. And look, it's always changing. It's always changing. It's always evolving and growing. It evolved for me when I went from no kids to 1 child. I mean, that was a big change. How many parents in the room? Okay, so we have a few. Awesome. That was a big change for me. 1 to 2 wasn't as hard. 0 to 1, I don't know about you guys, that was the ticker for me. But it also showed me I had to develop more skill sets so I could show up and do all of these things, right? I wrote my book, Slay Your Day. I wrote my book when I had my 2nd child while I was pregnant. On the cover, I was 7 months pregnant. So when that book finally got out and was published, I had Jordy at the time, but I was writing the book, getting it out during my pregnancy. And I remember saying to myself, this is going to be done before I have this baby. Well, the universe was listening, and I had the baby and the book in the exact same month. So there you go. So what we're going to dive into today, I want you to think to yourself, are you running your days, or are your days running you? Because those are 2 very different scenarios. Do you wake up and you are in control? Or do you feel like you're scrambling and rushing? I just posted on my Instagram stories this morning that my wake time, ever since having kids, has increasingly gone from about 7 a.m., now we're about 5 a.m. But I'll tell you, I am the epitome of a morning person. Like, I hated the mornings. Now, this is my time. It's my time for me. It's my time to work out. It's my time to journal. It's my time to do breath work. All these amazing things that 10X Health has taught us. Take my vitamins. So I've found ways to create space and time and ways that allow me to be the best version of me that I can be. Because I know if mama doesn't get her workout in, guess what? I'm not going to have as much patience that day. I know if I don't have time for myself to just have that hot cup of coffee, like a sip of hot cup of coffee in the morning. You guys, by the way, I found a coffee mug that keeps your coffee hot. Yes. So, we find the hacks in there, where we can. But it's important that if we don't have a clear action plan in place every single day, that the things that we want to focus on, those big, massive, scary, juicy goals that we want to go after, they're not going to happen by accident, right? So what we have to focus on are the areas that we want to grow. What is it? I mean, it's a new year, right? It's 2023. The new year, new me philosophy, everyone's throwing that around. What do you want to achieve this year, right? We all have so many big goals and dreams, but without these things in place, it's not going to happen by magic. So today I have 5 tips that I'm going to share with you to help you start setting your days up for success and getting the wheels in motion so you are running your days. I'll tell you something else. When I started doing this, and this is before the 5 a.m. wake-ups, this was really just pouring into me first. These are just some of the things that it allowed me to do. So intentional time with my family. How many of you would love to just have like those intentional date nights with your spouse? So I'll tell you that my kids and I, we do dates or date nights together where I go out with them just one-on-one. So Jake and I will have mommy and Jakey day days or day dates. Jordy and I do this, and I ask Jordy, who's 2, I say, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go for our date? And he says, let's go on a coffee date. Or he'll say, let's go to baby class. Because he knows that is our intentional time together. And then Thursday nights, Jared and I, that is our set in stone date night where we go out and we talk about our goals and we talk about what we're focusing on and how I can support him and how he can support me. Last night, we were all laying in bed together, and I said, I want us to all go around and say something that we're grateful for our family. And the kids get involved, so we do this together. And my husband said, I'm glad we all support each other, that we're all on the same team, that we push for each other. Even the little guys, even my 2 and 5-year-olds. I focus on what they want to create. My 5-year-old is into fishing. Guess what? They went out fishing. My husband and Jakey went out fishing this weekend. And it's going to grow and change as they get older, but that intentional time is so important. Prioritizing yourself, the me time. How many of us can't go without that? And the me time is the workouts, the massages, the nails, the 5 minutes to just drink that hot cup of coffee. That's the me time, right? And for me, I struggled with that in the beginning. Like when I first had Jake, my oldest son, I struggled with it because I didn't know that it was okay to have that. I just thought you had to be in like survival mode all the time, right? Like we don't realize that it's okay to take these breaks for yourself. It's okay to unplug because I get to be a better mom, a better wife, a better businesswoman because of it. Taking that me time is so important for me, and I don't ever feel like I have to earn this. I get to have that. I create that in my world. A work schedule that allows me to work smarter, not harder, right? So where I get to show up and pour into my business and into my clients, but also know that when I'm not working, I am not working. I'm 100% in work mode when I'm in work mode, and I'm 100% in mommy or wife mode or me time mode when I'm in those modes. And having boundaries. Boundaries in both my personal and business space to create the life that I want to live, not what someone else is dictating, what I want to live. So what we're going to do is focus on the targets and priorities that are going to help get us there. You guys ready? Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so I mentioned my book, Slay Your Day. Number 1 rule, plan your day the night before. So, how many of you go to bed, and then all of a sudden, your mind, your brain just starts going, and you're like, I just got into bed, I want to relax. And all you can think about is your to-do list and the things you got to focus on for the next day, or the laundry, or the groceries, or whatever it is, right? Yeah, and then it never shuts off. So this will help you with that. This is going to support you in planning your day the night before. So with this, what you're going to do is anything that you can set out the day of for the next day, you do. So I mentioned taking my vitamins. Those are set out for me. My workout clothes for the next morning, down to my shoes, down to even Jake's clothes for his uniform for the next day, right? All of those things are laid out because it allows my next day to flow, to be easier for everybody, right? This morning, the kids wanted some Starbucks pumpkin loaf. So you know what? Finished my workout, ordered it, had plenty of time to make the breakfast, get the coffee off to my husband, and spend some quality time with Jake before he left for school. So the first rule, plan your day the night before. So I want you to write down, everyone has notes that they're taking. How will you plan your day the night before? I want you to actually list it out. Because if we don't write these things down, they're just not going to happen. So we have to take action. The implementation is going to be the difference between looking at this now, listening to the rest of the speakers that are going to be here, that you're going to hear from today, and then actually putting this into place and allowing it to change your life. So number one, how will you plan your day the night before? Anything that you can prep, you're going to write that down. Number two, focus on your top three. So I have some good news for you guys. Ready? Get rid of your to-do list. You can throw that thing in the trash, get rid of it. If it's 20 items long, whatever it is, you can now get rid of it. Because what does that do? It just sets us up for failure. We look at all of the things that we didn't accomplish in the day, and we just beat ourselves up over it, right? So now, we're going to start to rewire the processing and the thinking. So what you're going to do now is you're going to write down the top 3 goals that you need to accomplish for tomorrow. I like to call these the big money moves. These are your needle movers. What is going to be your needle movers? What are going to be your needle movers that are going to set you up for success the next day? And by the way, it's not 3 in every category. It's not 3 at home. It's not 3 at work. It's not 3 personal, because now we're back to the to-do list. It is only 3 things that go on that to-do list that are going to move you forward the next day. And this is where you get to streamline what now is important to you, because you have to decide what stays on and what goes off, right? So now you get to see every single day what's moving the ball forward. So you're going to write down, what are your top 3 goals for the next day? And I'll give you a little hint when you're doing this. As you're making these changes and as every day you're setting up your top 3, think about what gave you the most progress. And we're going to walk through a little audit at the end of this, and it's going to help set this up for success and really get some wheels in motion. Okay, number 3, know your non-negotiables. This is big, especially as a mom and as a wife and as a business owner. The more hats you wear, I'll tell you this, the more hats you wear, the better that this works, okay? So non-negotiables are standards that you will not negotiate on. You stick to them no matter what. Having non-negotiables in place allows you to get laser focused on what's important. So what are those non-negotiables? I'll share one of mine with you. One of my non-negotiables is putting my kids down to bed at night. That time is so important, and I know it goes by so fast. So for me, putting the kids down at night, that is my sacred time with them. It's so special, and even my oldest, who's 5, he still wants to cuddle, but I can't fit him in my arms the way I used to, like my 2-year-old. But you know what? I still snuggle him up, because that is my time with him. These non-negotiables are in place to protect you. So I want you to write down and define, right? We have to define this. What are your non-negotiables? If we don't have these clearly laid out, we'll never set them in place. So, on the same lines as non-negotiables, set boundaries. The thing with boundaries is, yes, they're there for other people, but they're mostly here to protect ourselves. Setting boundaries are going to allow you to be in control of your time, where you show up, what you say yes to, what you say no to, right? Like how many times do we say yes to things because we're like, okay, someone asked me, so yes, right? But it doesn't fit the idea of the day or the mission where you want to show up. So how can you learn to be in control of your own time instead of other people taking that time from you? And they're not doing it intentionally. They're doing it because we haven't defined what these boundaries look like. So, setting clear boundaries. What areas can the boundaries help the most? And how will this honor your time? Another boundary for me that I have is I have set working hours. So for me, between 10 and 3, my pickup time for my son's school is 3:30. So I work between 10 and 3. And when I'm in work mode, I'm 100% there. But then when I'm with Jake, he's like, Mom, let's go get smoothies after school. Mom, let's go get Starbucks, whatever it is, right? And I get to be in mom mode fully 100%. And I feel good about it, right? I don't have to be half in work mode, half in mom mode. And then Jared's calling me, hey, I need you to do this or that, or for the house, we just moved, so we have 100 things going on at the house, right? So the boundaries, and also get clear on this with your spouse, because you want to know what their boundaries are as well. My husband and I, we support each other in our goals and what we're going after, but there's no way that we can do this and support each other fully if he doesn't know where my boundaries are and I don't know where his are. So it's really important, and you can do this with your kids as well. Again, mine are little, 2 and 5, but we have a little mission and vision statement for our family, and we know what everyone's goals are. We were talking about our vision board, right? And Jake told me part of his goals for the new year to speak on more stages. He's 5. I'm like, how many stages do you want to speak on? He's like, 500. I'm like, all right, you got me beat. Probably daddy too. So again, like it's that big think though, right? Like I love that. I don't want to discourage that. I'm like, 500, let's go. Where are we going? Where are you speaking? You know? But again, setting boundaries so everybody can be supportive of the team's effort and the individual effort. And number 5, don't be afraid to say no. This is so hard as women. No, right? All the things that we're talking about, the non-negotiables, the boundaries, this will protect your no. So, the no. What does that look like? What is that going to fit around? Where does that need to show up right now that we're not using this? This is a tool, right? Using the word no protects our yes. So we have to show up in the areas that are important to us by saying no and standing firm on the areas and the boundaries and the non-negotiables that we set for ourselves. So what will you say no to this year? And you know what? This isn't just a quick write it down, because there's a lot of things that we got to go through to think about what are those areas, what are the things that I'm going to say no to, where am I showing up? So I want you to list them out. So now that we've gone through these 5, I have a little bonus that we're going to go through. And I would recommend probably screenshotting this because, again, this is going to take some time to work through the exercise. But this is a weekly audit. And this is powerful. When you get to your end of the week and you go through these questions, this will change the game. So number 1, what are my achievements this week? What did you achieve this week? Number 2, what action steps moved me forward this week? So as you're setting your top 3 every single day, as you're setting your non-negotiables and your boundaries and all these things that we just discussed, what action steps moved you forward this week? And now the beauty in this is you're going to know exactly where you're going to identify these things. Number 3 is big. What sucked up my time this week? And I'll tell you this, the more attention you have on these things will allow you to say yes or no in the areas that are important to you. This is why every week this is so important to dive into. Where am I putting my time? What am I saying yes to? What am I saying no to? Number 4, what are the action steps that got me the most visible this week? You guys want to grow your businesses, change the world, make it a better place? This is what I tell my kids every single night. You got to get visible. You got to get more people to know who you are and what you're doing. So, what are the action steps that got me most visible? In my academy, we always talk about collaborations, going live, getting visibility together with each other. Get up on a stage. And you know what? If you can't make a stage, you go and you create it yourself. So how are you going to do that? How am I feeling with my progress at the end of this week? And give yourself a grade. From week to week, you're going to see what is working for you. What's working, what's not working, and then you know what you're going to also start to see because you're tracking this now. You're tracking the stats, you're tracking the wins, you're tracking the losses. It's like a game, right? Like take the emotion out of it and start to play it like a game. It gets to be fun. You get to see what's working, what's not working. But the progress at the end of the week is going to be the judge, and you're going to know where you got visible, how you showed up, and what you need to do more or less of. Number 6, what are the tasks that I should have finished but didn't? Because this will also be the gauge. Where are you telling yourself you're going to put your time and it just doesn't get done? Because it either has to get off the list or you got to do it. You got to face the facts, one or the other. It's either in or it's out. If it's important, it gets done. If it's not, it's off. And then how can I improve for next week? Right? All of these questions that you just had before are going to answer this last one for you. How can I improve for next week? Where you're showing up, how you're getting visible, what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to. All of these things, along with the top 5 that we just talked about, are going to allow you to paint the picture on how you can improve for the next week. And then guess what? Every single week gets to get better. You learn the stats, you learn the numbers, you play the game, you let it be fun, right? Because a loss isn't a loss. It's a learning opportunity, right? So doing this audit week to week, this is why I said take a screenshot of this, because you're going to want to go back and implement this week to week. Do this for yourself. If you have a team, get your team members on board with this, because everything will get better. Everything will get better when you can get the team on board with doing the audit and going through these questions. Because I don't know about you guys, but I don't want every week to be the same. I want to get better and better and better and make sure everyone around me is doing the same. So this is the bonus. This is the audit. And then I also have a little freebie for you guys. So I have a guide that is called Big Money Moves. This is the guide that will move you forward every single week. So it's just sandraglandt.com/big money. It's totally free. You can grab it there. It's a download. It's a PDF. And it's yours for free. Thank you. Yes. All right, guys. So 5 tips. I want you to implement them. Go through the audit. And this is how we slay 2023.
Oh, there it is. Hi, honey. Thank you. Did anyone have any questions, comments? Anything? All right.
Do you want me to give her this one?
Hello. So my question is, I love that you set your time to work till 3.
Yeah.
I have a 15-month-old at home, so we have a nanny 9 to 5, but I love that you separate the time to get other stuff done, whereas I feel like my whole day is a blur of personal stuff.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for my kid, but, just managing the household, working, throwing in workouts, meeting friends for coffee, getting it all done, and running 2 businesses. How do you separate that? Like, for me, if I said, I'm only working till 3, and then a client wants to meet with me at 4:30, or I have to run to a networking event at 5, how do you set those boundaries? For me, that seems difficult.
Yeah. So within the boundaries and the non-negotiables that you're setting for yourself, this is the thing with this plan also, right? Life happens. So we can set the boundaries, we have the non-negotiables, but there's emergencies that happen. There's things that just, again, life comes into play. So you have to decide where you bend or where you can, implement these other things into your life. If you're like, you know what, I work till 3, and then I go and I make dinner and I'm with my daughter, then that is your time. I know for me, I put my phone down and it's away, so I'm not with it. But if there's something that comes up and it's planned and you know that that's on there, then absolutely. But for me, I know that the day to day, I know that for me and for my kids and what I want for us as a family, that can't be the daily for us. So if there's a networking event, if there's a client that you have to meet, plan it put it on the schedule, right? And then whatever support you need, whether it's a nanny or your partner can be there to support you with that, then you have also the support built in. So I always talk about 3 things: system, strategy, and support. And the support piece is where if you have to run out, you have the backup, right? But also don't feel guilty, because we're doing all the things like mom life and home life and business and all of that. It's just life, right? But the better you can plan it out, and if you know you have those things, then that way you know that you're supported. Yeah. Does that help? Yeah. Okay, good.
Anyone else?
Do you get frustrated by people who say, you shouldn't have to plan your whole life out? I live with a non-planner, and it's very frustrating because I'm a planner.
Yeah.
He's like, you have to plan everything. Everything's so planned. But that's what works for me, and I don't see it working very well in his life to not plan.
Well, I'll tell you this. My husband is not the planner, and I am. So we have a similar dynamic. And 2 things. Number 1, once he gets incorporated, for the first time, I put on my Instagram stories, I actually put down the, what's it called? Not the slow-mo, but the time lapse of my husband and I sitting down and planning out our entire 2023 on the calendar of his work events, my work events, travel, my son's school schedule, all the things. And he was like, this was amazing. For the first time, he was like, where's the schedule? Where's the calendar? We were sitting down for dinner last night, and he's like, oh, well, I have this thing now, and am I off next weekend? Wait, but let's check the calendar. So, he feels that extra layer of support. Now, he wasn't always that way, right? It was we've been married, it'll be 7 years on the 23rd of this month. And, it's taken him a while to get into it. But what I'll say is the planning and the scheduling allows for the flexibility. Right? The more of that you have, the more you can say, look, I have this free time here, or I have the flexibility to take the vacation or the coffee date or the whatever over there. So it's not this rigid thing that you can't move. It's having the fluidity within the schedules that you have the freedom.
I hear people say all the time, though, I do better and I'm more creative when I'm not planning everything. Okay, well, great for you.
Yeah. I mean, look, my creative time is in my mornings. So I wake up now at 5. So from 5 until my son gets up at 6:45, that's my workout time, my journal time, my breath work time, my me time. And it's scheduled, yes, but it's not to the second every single thing that I'm doing. So there's you have the movement and the flexibility within that scheduled time period. It's not you have to put, if you can, you can do it. Yeah.
Hi, Sandy. Nice meeting you. I'm Rosie.
Nice to meet you.
I have a question. It's a comment and then a question. What I have, I'm a very high DI on disc, and I am very multitasking. I can do 3, 4, 5 things at the same time.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that I cannot see my phone with notifications. I don't care what type of notifications it is. If it's open, I have to click, and I'm able to keep doing whatever I do. But I've heard that's a no-no. It's not a good thing. What do you think about it?
So I'll tell you 2 things. Personally, I know for myself, it takes me off task. I know if I task jump, I'm here, and then I'm there, and I'm not getting things done. Scientifically, they say that it actually takes, so there's a percentage to it, and they say that whatever the task is that you're working on, it actually takes you back an additional 30 minutes from the actual task that you first started. So if I'm thinking and I'm, practically just looking at time and the metrics and the numbers, if I'm like working on whatever, emails on my computer, and then I look over here and there's a notification and then I got to switch back, it's going to take me 30 minutes to get back, not back into the task of what it was right there, but what was I thinking about? What was I writing? To actually get that thing done. So there's how you see it and operate with it, and then there's the actual stats that say this is what actually happens when you switch tasks.
I personally have all my notifications off unless it's really like airline when we're traveling, that's on.
Yeah.
Everything else is off. This one. I'm sitting there and we're sitting there going live and our phone's going bleep, 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 and I'm going bleep, bleep.
Yeah, but you know what I do when I'm in work mode? Then and even like on the phone with clients or whatever, my phone is on like the airplane mode and it's down, so I can't even see it. So like I just put that thing down and turn them off on my computer too. Because you get the notifications on your computer.